Hey there! Event-driven development is great. Well, until you need to track down a bug and realize your execution flow is scattered across 20 different classes with no particular order. Today, we're looking at a different way to decouple behavior while making your code more structured and readable. All that by using the command pattern. But not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Like any other pattern, it has its weak sides too. Buckle up. From my previous videos, many of you already know what we're working with here. But for those of you who are new to the channel, here's a quick recap. My vampire can roam around this dungeon and collect gems. When a gem is collected, a sound is played and the score increased by 1. Every 2 score points, we gain a life. Last architecture video was about the event aggregator pattern, and here's what we ended up with. An event aggregator class that contains a number of events, and everyone uses it to either subscribe to those events or dispatch them. In terms of flow, it goes like this. Player controller dispatches the gem collected event through the event aggregator. Sound manager, which is subscribed to this event, plays a sound. Also subscribed to the same event, player state manager processes it and calculates the new score and lives count. If the score changed, which it did, it publishes the score changed event through the event aggregator. The same goes for lives. The last one is UI manager, which is subscribed to the score changed and lives changed events, and when those fire, the UI is updated. This might seem fine and clean, but as I mentioned in the previous video, the event aggregator is now a sort of God object that has to be aware of all possible events, and we already established that this is not that good. Additionally, if you ask me, the flow is a bit harder to debug. Not the individual parts, which are fine, but the flow as a whole. So let's step out of the events world for a second and try implementing it differently. Quick side note. Did you know that only about 10% of viewers who make it this far actually like or subscribe? If you're enjoying this video, now's a great time to do it. I want to simplify the code as much as possible, so let's get rid of the event aggregator. We no longer need it. I'll also remove the collectible controller, which was attached to every gem and was only responsible for deactivating itself on collision. Next, I'll start simplifying my existing classes. First up is UI manager. Here, I'll remove both the onEnable and onDisable methods. We're no longer using events, so there's no need for them. I'll also make those two methods publicly accessible. Same thing with sound manager, removing the onEnable and onDisable methods and making the playCollectSound method public. The last class I'm going to change is player state manager. Since I'm no longer using events, I want to remove all of the logic from the score and lives properties. Both should become regular auto properties with a private setter. I also no longer need the backing fields, and I can get rid of the onEnable and onDisable methods here as well. Start I'll leave as is, but onGemCollected will be slightly transformed from a private callback into a public addScore method that accepts the amount of score to add. The only additional change needed here, apart from fixing the references, is that instead of always increasing the score by 1, I now increase it by that amount. Now I can finally start working on the command pattern. You can think of a command as a centralized, self-contained entity that has everything it needs to perform a specific action. This means we need to hold references to everything we'll require and initialize them in the constructor. We'll need the gem being collected, player state manager to update the state, sound manager to play a sound, and UI manager to update the UI. Now for the execute method. This is where we perform everything in a centralized way. First, I'll disable the gem's game object. Then I'll add the score via player state manager, play a sound with sound manager, and finally update the score and lives UI with the latest value from player state manager. Now, just look at this code. It's clean, readable, isolated, and actually debuggable. Everything is structured and the control flow is easy to follow. If I have a bug in the gem collection logic, I no longer need to decipher a chain of events and jump from one place to another. It's all right here. Just think about it. In your game, there can easily be many reasons for HP to change, up or down. And that might require spawning particles, updating the UI, playing a sound, performing depth checks. With the command pattern, it's all in one place. And if execute were async, your possibilities would be ever greater. The only question left is, where do these dependencies come from and how do we get them? And this is where the first drawback of the command pattern shows up. While it works well on its own for smaller things, if you want it to be a part of your game's architecture, it can't stand alone. You have to pair it with dependency injection, a service locator, or even singletons. For the sake of simplicity, I'll hold all the required dependencies inside Player Controller. But if you've been following the series, you already know that this is far from ideal. It's either dependency hell or a god object all over again. But bear with me for now. The last touch is to replace the missing event aggregator call with a command execution. I'll create a new instance passing in everything it needs, the gem the player collided with and the rest of the managers. And now it's ready to be executed. Let's go set things up in Unity. First, let's remove the now missing collectible controller script from all of the gems. Next, I need to provide all of the dependencies to Player Controller. I'll just drag and drop everything. Sound Manager, UI Manager, and Player State Manager. Now I can enter Play Mode. The first thing you'll notice is that the UI displays incorrect values, which will be reset once I collect the first gem, but other than that, everything seems to be working correctly. I can collect gems, the sound plays, and the UI updates as expected. Let's figure out what's going on with the UI. If we look at the TextMesh Pro elements, both fields are showing 99 as a default value. This means that when the game starts, nothing is updating these values. Let's figure out why. Previously, UI Manager was receiving initial values from the Player State Manager via events on start. But now the events are gone and I don't have any similar logic in place. Nothing stops me from updating the UI manually. Nothing, except common sense maybe. I mean, why would Player State Manager be managing the UI, right? But since SRP and separation of concerns are out of the scope for this video, I'll allow myself one more dirty trick and put the initialization inside Player Controller, which is even less suited for this, but since it's already hold references to all the dependencies… Wait, how do we actually do it? Well, this brings up another characteristic of the command pattern, which is simultaneously one of its greatest strengths and one of its worst weaknesses. If you want to keep things clean, you have to reuse code, which is a good practice in general, but with the command pattern, it can sometimes lead to a lot of boilerplate. Here, for example, inside collect gem command, we already have code that updates the score and lives. Now we need to extract it into another command. I'll copy that code and create a new command called update UI command. Inside its execute method, I'll paste the code I've copied and I'll need to provide the required dependencies, a Player State Manager and the UI Manager. I'll initialize those from the constructor using Rider's shortcut. Gotta say, I love Rider. Now, back in collect gem command, I can replace that code with a code to the new command I created. Just pass in the dependencies and call execute. And I'll do the same inside the start method of Player Controller. But wait, anyone who has worked with me knows there's no chance whatsoever I'd let this code into my codebase. And not even because of all the hacks I already mentioned. The real issue is this little keyword right here. This one means we're allocating memory every single time we want to trigger a command. By itself, that's not so bad. But the more locations we have, the more garbage the collector has to clean up, and the more work our CPU has to do during this time. That can cause frame drops, and we definitely don't want that. So why do we need those classes here? Why can't we make this one into a service that's instantiated once and just use its methods? Honestly, we can. Well, it depends. If we know that our dependencies live forever, which is doubtful but can be worked around, and if the commands are completely stateless, like this one could be if we move the gem from the constructor into the method itself, we can easily replace them with plain methods. But the command pattern has another powerful feature that actually requires instances: the undo functionality. Let's say I want to be able to undo this action with a button press. What I need to do is create a method for that. This method will do everything in reverse, and here I do need state, which in this case is the gem because I'm going to re-enable it. The next step is to reverse the score and lives, and there are multiple ways to go about this. We can either save the game state before execute happens and restore it inside undo, or we can try reversing the logic directly. Both approaches have their pros and cons. Here, it's easier to just subtract 1 from the score, and don't mind the error just yet. I don't have an undo sound prepared, but if I did, this is where it would go. And lastly, I'll trigger update UI command. Now, let's fix the error you see here. The issue is that this method only accepts positive values, and only knows how to calculate upward, not downward. The first thing I need to do is change the uint to int. Next, the score addition. I can no longer just add the amount directly, because it can now be negative. I need to make sure the resulting score never goes below 0, and cast it to an unsigned integer. Lives also need to handle both directions now, so I'll update the operator here and apply the same approach I used for score, capping it at 0. Notice the integer cast here. That's to prevent the unsigned integer from wrapping around and causing silent issues. The last thing left is to invoke the undo method. For this, I'll hold the read-only stack collection of collect gem commands, then when a command is created, I'll push it onto the stack. I want to pop from the stack when the player presses the R key. In a real game, I take the extra minute to configure an action inside the input system, but for a YouTube video, a minute spent on an unrelated task is a minute too long. Here, I'll try to pop a command from the stack, and if one exists, trigger its undo method. That's it. Let's see it in action in Unity. And I can jump straight into play mode. First, notice that the UI values are correctly set this time. I can collect a gem, and when I press the R key, the gem returns to its place and the score goes back to 0. I can collect 2 gems to increase the lives as well, and pressing R will revert that too. So now, every gem collection can be undone. So, do we have to accept that the command pattern requires instantiating new objects every time we want to perform an action? Thankfully, no. Commands can be pulled and reused, preventing excessive allocations. And this is once again both a strength and a weakness. On one hand, commands are highly extensible and can be paired with almost anything. But on the other hand, to work with them properly, you absolutely have to pair them with something. And that can sometimes lead to unnecessary boilerplate. I think I need to do a proper command pattern deep dive video. Stay tuned. Until then, keep on creating, and I'll see you in the next one.